what it looks like to be blown back by a fire hose, what it looks like to be pulled away from a lunch counter. And I feel like we're heading down that path and need to be cognizant of the fact that this isn't going to be easy.
Thank you. Veronica, will you go next?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I just also, Ty, you wanted to, and for everybody, in case you didn't know, that you can look at that information yourself to know who's watching. Sometimes it can be relieving for me to know that you can scroll onto participants and click and then see the attendees. Okay. I have a little bit of, the anxiety in my body comes up, to be fully transparent, around doing group work when I am feeling eager for action. And I think that maybe many of us can resonate with that. So my work, what spoke to me in that, as much as in theory, I very much value the process and really understand the importance and the need for community building and a lengthy process to really make sure that we're oriented toward the process and not just the results. But with this work particularly, it's hard for me to kind of settle my action desires and to be patient with the process. So that'll be I'm eager to continue to be doing that with all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We have a couple jump up. Actually, I'm going to have you wait. We're just doing 1 minute round robin.
Okay.
So next person, step up. Amal, would you be willing to go?
Hi, sorry.
And then
yeah.
Alexandra.
I definitely identify with what everybody has already said, especially the dominant culture aspect of it. I think sometimes we rely on trends to like guide what we say and how we identify things without critically thinking about what we're saying. And so I think checking in with people and being very intentional about the language we use. I think language is powerful. So every word we choose guides the way we think and how we approach problems and solutions. So I think that's beautiful. And I like that this pulls in everybody to speak and feel like, even within this group, like it's hard to talk on screen. And like Ty said, when people are watching that we don't know. So I'm appreciating hearing I love the round robins. I love hearing from everybody.
Thank you. Alexandra. And then Lisa, will you be willing to go next?
So the first thing that I thought about that stood out to me was like how this meeting, for example, might be different than a different meeting, like a business meeting or something like that. And I feel like it's because with a topic like race or social justice, it's an emotional thing. And it's something that we all deeply connect to and have experienced in different ways. And so I think sometimes it's important to have guidelines or things written so that we're not feeling isolated. So it's like, if you're feeling emotional about something and you don't want to speak, that's okay. And that's in writing. So sometimes you can kind of like reinforce that for yourself of like, sometimes when you're feeling a lot of things, you kind of like feel self-conscious or like you're doing something wrong. So I think that's why these are so important.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what everyone said is there. I'm starting now sort of more thinking about what other people have said in reaction to those quotes. But one of the things that really struck me was just that the norms are there so we know what to expect in ourselves and others. And I really liked that part. Listening to this, I was remembering recently a text from the old feminist days called the Tyranny of Structurelessness, which really talks about how if you don't name your rules and your norms, then the people who already have societal power tend to be the people who rise to the top as leaders, and there's no questioning of that. And so I think it's really powerful to have developed a set of group norms. And I was really moved by what Griselda said about those who might be a little bit more held back, maybe not being included unless there's some formal way of making sure that people are heard. you know, there's somebody who's done this work on being an introvert, but I just love her saying that the loudest voices don't necessarily have the most important things to say, and that there's not necessarily a correlation between being the best speaker and having the most important ideas. So I love bringing that out. And then finally, when people are talking about our process and the fact that people are watching us, that causes me, you know, of course, a little concern too, because it feels like this wonderful group where I feel like we're building this trust and we're talking about very deep things. But I'm also aware that we're a town committee and that people are watching our process, and that there are some people who have been not happy about the allocation of resources to this process and might not understand that this process is going to be a little bit different and move a little bit differently than the other more task-based.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you just in the interest of everybody having the same voice.
Thank you.
Time for voice. And let me see who, I think Stephanie and Bruce, are you the only ones left? Did I miss anyone?
I'll go next.
Okay, thank you.
I really love what you just shared, Liesl. Thank you. And I really love what I've heard from everyone. So I wrote down from the first one, expectation. I don't know if you all know that I have a very, my background is in the private sector, very corporate background. And so, you know, if you don't, so many different forums and the way meetings were held, you know, there was often a real lack of feeling supported, particularly as a young person. And so when I hear these quotes of having community agreements and feeling supported, it just felt just so beautiful, frankly. And I really believe in setting expectations in professional spheres and personal, in my personal life. And
Stephanie, I'm going to stop you. That was a minute. I know it's hard to do a minute. You'll have so much more time to talk today. Don't worry.
Okay.
Bruce, I think you're last but not least.
Yeah, I just, I appreciate what everyone has said. And I just, when I heard the quotes, the thought that I had and the hope that I have is that by spending some time looking at our norms, it will make it actually easier for us all to speak. And I heard that from others because maybe they find it reluctant to speak, but maybe I'll come from, although I have a hard time speaking in public as well, but I have this extra voice from being on the council, and so I just want to check myself, and this will help me to know how to do that. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So in a minute, you're going to go into dyad. So we're not going to do a big group conversation now. I do want to make a couple comments. So two important comments. One, I am very, very purposeful, intentional, and work exceedingly hard at ensuring that I am not reproducing oppression, and that I am both creating, advocating for, and participating in liberatory spaces for all people. And I hope there's some very purposeful and intentional ways that I do that in meetings that I hope all of you will see and take up and reproduce in your own work. And that being said, I'm also blind by the nature of the fact that we all swim in oppression and white supremacy. And the fact that we just swim in that culture every day means that we're blind to some of it, no matter where we sit in the system. And so norms for me, co-constructing norms and taking some process time is really critically important to creating and interrupting white supremacy in our spaces. And if you think about how much work we do in meetings, it's pretty insane. The amount of reproduction that happens in those meetings, just by the very nature of us being humans swimming in supremacy. And then the second thing I want to say, because this is going to carry us throughout the entire day, when I'm sitting in meetings, I'm action. My brain moves 500 million miles a minute. I got it 2 minutes after you said it. I don't want to sit and process. I want to get to action. But when I facilitate, that is not who I am. I have to like really purposefully make sure that I'm giving time to all learners. And so what helps me when I'm frustrated about like, are we really going to talk about this for 30 minutes, people, which is what happens in my own brain, is I try to stand in a place of, I know there's somebody else in this meeting who needs this time. I know that if I am working to create inclusive spaces, then my way, there's also like a very dominant culture thing about quick action and getting to action. It's a very like white normalized process. And non-consensus processes are also very white. And so I just, and I'm saying white with air quotes and I haven't defined my terms, but I'm going to leave it there for just the sake of time. So if that's helpful as an offering to anyone, and then when we do move to action, and sometimes oddly enough, I do want to process more, I also have to remember, okay, there's people who really need to get to the action. So the hope is that over the course of our entire day, at the end, my greatest hope is everybody feels like they really got what they needed if you take the day into a whole day. If that makes sense. All right. So we're going to move into dyads, and the purpose, oh yes, Amal.
Just wanted to thank you. You're doing an incredible job. I'm learning so much from you, and the way you're holding space and acknowledge it's pretty incredible. Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for your vigilance and your explanations. It's incredible.
Thank you so much. Now I'm a little embarrassed. I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. And I'm blushing. But anyway, I mean, that's my greatest hope that I can offer all of you. So that means the world to me. Thank you. So we're going to go into dyads. And again, this is just meant to get you into some deep thought about what you want to create in our meetings. There'll only be 2-minute dyads. And so if I could have, Garrett is our driver today, I believe. If you could show, let me make sure I'm asking you to do the right slide. Yes, if you could show slide 6, please. Are you there, Garrett?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I thought I had it already loaded up, but
no problem.
I see the agenda. Huh. Okay. Sorry, I have to go get it.
So I'll do a little foreshadowing while he's doing that and save us some time here. So the dyad share I want you to think about a time where you experienced being able to be your full self, being able to be honored and heard and feel like you belonged. That could be a meeting, that could be with a friend, with family, that could be in a yoga studio, at a music festival, wherever your time is that you feel most valued, most seen, and most heard. And we'll go to slide 6. Yep, that one. And then can you do full screen, please?
Oops.
That's okay.
Oh, give me a sec. Here we go.
So can I have one person read the quote, please? Just jump in real quick.
Trust is the glue of life. It's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundational principle that holds all relationships. I think that's Stephen Curry.
Stephen Covey, but he probably thinks
Covey.
I didn't get any.
I think it's sports. I can't see it.
I didn't get any like cool quotes in here from like ball players. I'll work harder on that next time because there's some really good ones. for any basketball fans out there. So I just wanted to highlight the trust element. Norms help us build trust, and trust is considered like the relational fabric that is going to hold our work together. When you talked about the norms, you really talked about some different things around equity, being heard, all voices, ensuring that dominant culture isn't leading all of our team spaces. And so building trust is going to allow us to work together in an effective way. We're not going to go into this team development model. That's a whole nother day. But I did just want to highlight kind of our teams go through very normal processes. I think instead of forming a team, it should be called the honeymoon phase, because that's really where we are right now. You know, we're excited and we're in love with each other, and this is amazing and beautiful and wonderful. But as we start to work together, our trust is going to be challenged, and the integrity of holding norms is going to be challenged. And so I just want to highlight where we're headed as a team is going to be a normal evolution where we're going to, you know, we're going to storm a little bit, trying to figure out who we are. And then we're going to get into a rhythm and, you know, feel the gelling of our team. And then we might go back and storm a little more. And the hope is that I'm building your capacity to do this work, and that eventually you all are holding the work. Essentially, I'm working myself out of this role, and that you become a high performing team. So I see committees as a version of team. And all of that flow is really dependent on the trust that we hold and we build with each other. So next slide, please. And can I have someone read this quote, please?
From my point, oh, sorry, go ahead. It's okay. From my point of view, which is that of a storyteller, I see your life as something artful, waiting, just waiting and ready for you to make it art. Toni Morrison.
Thank you. Next slide. So we're just going to think about that time where you felt valued, seen, heard, honored. And Garrett, you can take this, you can bring us back to full screen. Thank you. And I'm going to ask, just to start off kind of the brainstorming part of our norms, I'm going to give you 30 seconds on the clock, and we're going to think about that time and think about what elements of that time that you felt this way were present. What did you receive? How were people acting? How did you feel? And we're going to do a whip around. So you'll just choose one word from that time. And we'll go a whip around where everybody will just share their one word. So I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock, and you have some thinking time. This is also an equity strategy for all different kinds of thinkers that I give wait time before we talk.
Could you just share the prompt one more time, Lisa?
Yeah. So you're thinking about a time where you felt seen, heard, listened to, where you could bring your full self into the room or out to the table. And it really could be anywhere, a meeting, a yoga studio, a concert hall, wherever that place is for you. Okay. So one word each, and I'm gonna just, if we can go really quickly, so just popcorn, kind of a slow popcorn one at a time. And let's have Tayu start us off.
Relief.
Did you say relief?
Mm-hmm.
Just popcorn out.
Relaxed.
Joy.
Casual. Like-minded.
Patrice, what was yours?
Brave.
And Bruce, what was yours?
Responsible.
Okay.
Embraced.
Understood.
Safe.
Peace.
Authentic.
Heard. What was that last one? Heard. Heard. Okay. Did everybody go? All right. Sometimes when I'm thinking about what's coming next, I have a hard time tracking people. So if I ever forget you, do not take it personally. It's hard to track all the speakers all the time. All right, so we're gonna launch into brainstorming here. And we're gonna think about, Garrett, if you can show us slide 11, please. So I'm going to share some sample community agreements. And the way that we think about community agreements in the equity work that I've done is we have relational community agreements, ways of being with each other. So when you think about the words you heard your colleagues say, relief, relaxed, joy, responsible, safe, authentic, heard. I know I left some out. I want you to think about what norms do you personally need? So this is really where we're going to lift up individual voices for you to feel that way to the extent possible, of course, in a public meeting. And relational agreements are really around how are we going to be in relationship with each other. These are a sample of some equity-centered relational agreements. And we do not need to use these. I just wanted to provide an offering if for anybody who hasn't done norm work before. And then Garrett, can you go to the next slide, please? And then this would be a sample of operational agreements. More kind of think about it like nuts and bolts that don't have to do with really how we are with each other. It has to do more behaviorally, how we're gonna act and behave in our meetings. And what you're gonna do right now, and Garrett, you can take us off screen. Thank you. What we're gonna do right now is you're gonna actually write down 10 of your most important norms. Just you personally, there's no right answer, wrong answer. And then we're gonna go, what we're gonna start to do is, I do have a Jamboard, but I'm trying to keep us off that as long as possible, just in the interest of our eyes for the screen time. So you're just gonna take, I'm gonna give you, what do you guys want? 3 minutes to brainstorm? Do you need more time? If 3 minutes is good, thumbs up.
Can you also put that slide on with the examples of the first ones?
Sure.
Or writing down.
I'm going to give you 3 minutes and you're going to write down 10. If you could have your most ideal meeting, 10 norms in your, and we're not going to have 10. What we're going to shoot for are 5 norms by the end of the session. And if we have to have, you know, one more, one less, I'm not attached to the number 5. It's just a way to consolidate our norms. So I'm going to put 3 minutes on the clock. You have about 1 minute left. And finish up your last thoughts. All right. Now here's the tough part. You only get to take 5 of those norms into the brainstorm. And don't worry, you'll get to have like last say. If your norm doesn't get up there, we'll have a discussion. This is just to get us started. So you only get 5.
And these specific ones are about like the relationships between like the, okay.
Yeah, we're going to do relational first. The nuts and bolts is pretty quick.
Sorry about my questions. This is actually my first time on establishing norms and doing committee. Like, so sorry about my questions.
No, please don't apologize at all. And I'm happy. Yeah, it's always in any given group, you always have people who've never done it and could use like 3 hours of norm setting. And then you have people who've done it 500 times and don't want to talk about it. So keep asking your questions and ask me to slow down, ask me to explain more. You'll help me know what you need. And then when you have your 5, you can just, we can't throw apart signs. No, we can't throw apart signs. Okay, that's all right. You can just raise your hand when you have your 5 ready.
Do you want me to take notes on this, Lisa?
Yes, please. Okay, I'm seeing, Lisa, you're ready? Thank you. It takes me a minute to scan everybody. All right, so we're gonna share our 5, and what I'd like you to do is listen for common themes as you hear everybody's 5. Don't worry, I'm going to give you time to have some discussion, but I just want everybody to be able to have their voice in the room and do some independent thinking before we start discussing. So we're going to do a round robin, and you're just going to name your 5, and Stephanie will take notes.
Is Lisa going first?
I didn't see her hand. I saw Ty's hand.
Sorry, I thought you said she was going first. Who's going first?
Ty's going to go first.
Okay.
True listening, step up, step back, willing to risk, be engaged, and be trusting of each other in the process.
Okay, thank you. Next. Just raise your hand, like Serena.
Be open to change. Don't yuck my yum. No wrong answers. You are the expert of your own experience. And the right to pass.
Daria.
Mine more like attitudes, or to adopt kindness, non-judgmental, fair, considerate, and forgiving.
Lisa, and then Amal.
So I just have everyone gets an intentional chance to speak. Don't interrupt, allow people to make mistakes in order to encourage ideas. If you challenge an assumption, do so with respect. Try not to take challenges personally.
touched on some of the same ones. Openly confront racism, that all are engaged. Listen and be open to see things in a new way. If I'm trying to say this in the right way, if someone says something that's triggering, to address it with the intention to teach or to help or to open up discussion, not with anger, and trust that everyone's here because they care.
Thank you. Stephanie, are you good on the pacing for writing?
It's a little challenging, but I'm trying.
Okay. We'll move to the Jamboard in a minute, so there's another opportunity.
Okay.
Okay, Griselda and then Veronica.
Respectful listening, ask questions, no assumptions, equal airtime, speak only from personal perspective, do not speak for others, and then develop some method for stress relief, levity, humor, something.
Freedom to, yeah, freedom or the invitation to move our bodies or stand up and stretch and not just feel like we have to be seated, and that being normal, regular, consistent invitations to be present with our emotions and our breath. A very competent and graceful, nobody over talking surveyor, and folks feeling safe to be vulnerable and aware that they are valued.
Thank you. Bruce.
I have step up, step back, and share the airtime. Be open to possibilities. Seek meaningful consensus. And bring the community along.
Lily.
I missed one. Step up, step with a share the air. What was the one after that before consensus?
Be open to possibilities.
Thank you.
And seek meaningful consensus.
Should I speak?
Yeah.
Just gonna say, my name is Laylee.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for correction.
It's all right, I'm used to it. So I'm committing each time to maintaining trust, respect for all voices, openness to possibilities, risk-taking, mindfulness that we all come from different backgrounds and histories and holding space for that, and listening to understand.
Alexandra.
I put, the first thing I wrote was something that a couple groups that I'm a part of have, which is not up for debate, which means, like, for example, white supremacy is not up for debate, like it exists. And so we all speak from a baseline that it exists. And then I had step up, step back, use I statements, personal accounts are true and should be received as such, and then listen to understand.
Thank you. I think we have a couple more people who haven't gone. Jump in, Patrice.
I wrote respect, providing context with the ideas said to level set, active listening, which in my opinion means listen to what's being said prior to ever thinking about how you're going to respond, humanity and laughter. And
what? I didn't hear that.
Laughter.
Oh, okay.
And then compassion.
Thank you. And then I believe we have a couple more. Stephanie, do you want to share yours?
Yeah, I had take risks, confidentiality, ensuring productive struggle and ensuring everyone is heard. Do we have anyone else?
Did I miss anyone? Daria, I think, did you go yet?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. So we're gonna have just about a 5-minute discussion. And then I'm gonna have Garrett, I'm gonna foreshadow a little bit and see if you can screen share the Jamboard with me, and I'll drive for folks. And so let me know if you're able to do that, because I can't do the link like I did. Patrice.
Is there any way we could take a 3-minute bio break?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So feel free to take them as needed, just on your own. If it's a short bio break, feel free to take it as needed. If you're feeling like you need a longer break, I didn't schedule a break for this morning session because it was going to be so short. But if I'm not reading the room and you're just like, we need a break, then we can take some consensus on break time.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and we'll start the conversation, but you should be back before we're done.
Thank you.
So Lisa, I made you the co-host, so you could just do whatever.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So what are some common, there were some outliers, which I thought were really interesting. I'm so grateful. There's some that I hadn't heard before, but we're going to talk first about what did you hear as common norms from your colleagues? And we're just going to have an open discussion.
Respect.
Personal accounts are to be assumed to be true and respected as such.
Giving everyone a chance to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And the step up, step, whatever that one was, step up, step out, that one was pretty common.
Step up, step back. Yeah.
Active listening.
Yeah.
Not up for debate.
Mm-hmm. So connected to that, and I know I'm not part of your group, but I am going to call out a couple connections. So connected to the not up for debate, there was also everyone's experience is valid. And I think that those two are intimately linked. What else did you hear that was in common?
Equal airtime.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People should be able to take risks, though, I think also, or be brave.
What else?
I just feel I didn't hear a lot of people say it, but they bring the community along. I feel like is important because this committee is working for the community, and so.
So we're going to talk about outliers in just a second. I want to focus us on what was common. Like, what did we hear that were common threads across the norms, the needs that people had? And then Bruce, that was an outlier. And by outlier, I don't mean not relevant. I just mean it wasn't one of the common ones people mentioned. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Stephanie.
I'm looking at my notes, and being open came up.
It did, yes.
A few times.
Anything else you're noticing that came up that was not mentioned?
An outlier?
No.
Or the commonality, the trends?
It's commonalities for now.
I'm looking. You got active listening, right?
I did. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
So for commonalities, and you'll see why I'm going to start us here, and I'll organize those stickies in a minute. So this is, and if I'm phrasing, we'll work on wordsmithing in a little bit. I just want to get the main ideas down. So I have respect, honor personal accounts. And I have active listening. Not up for debate. I think I got them all. Everyone, oh, did I say everyone speaks? Yeah, equal airtime. This is a little different, everyone. Okay, are there any common ones that you feel like are not on the stickies? And this is just for anybody to weigh in. Go ahead and feel free to popcorn. And when I say popcorn, I mean that I'm not going to call on people. You can just sort of, you know, normal conversational, normal conversation.
I think like just because we all, it sounds like we have like a little sense of anxiety about speaking. Maybe the respect part, just another one that names, like if we say something wrong or that's accidentally steps on someone's toes, or just to have it addressed with an understanding that we're all here because we care and that, you know, we're all learning, right? So like maybe a respectful response to triggers or something.
Yeah, so one, I'm trying to think, I'm looking at some of the patterns. I'll put it, let's see. Oops.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, this is just personally speaking. One norm that I would really appreciate personally is just a safety that it's okay to make mistakes, right? Like if you say the wrong thing, you know, like you're not going to get jumped on, or
Yeah.
You know, like I don't, if you say something that's just not, you know, the right thing from a, you know, I just don't want it to be this stigma, or because we're all learning.
Yeah. I think Patrice mentioned compassion, and then that when also you're talking about kindness, being non-judgmental, accepting, right? We want to give each other a chance and not jump on each other if there's somebody makes a faux pas or says something that came out wrong.
Right.
So those were commonalities, kind of all of the same vein. Does respectful response to triggers, okay to make mistakes? In like educational speak, we call that a growth mindset. And I don't want my words to be in there, but as just a way to think about it, that we're all growing and learning, and part of that is going to be making mistakes. And I think when we're talking about racial equity work, this is why we have these conversations. And to the quotes point, it's not just the norm. Part of what we're doing, just to be a little meta about it for a second, is we're norming our norms. Because when I say, you know, be brave, my brave is not someone else's brave. I'll tell you that right now from like, you know, from my own leadership work, right? When we talk about respect, especially when we're talking about respect across difference, that is my respect to somebody else's respect when I work with youth. And so, I mean, you know, my notion of a youth respect and adult respect, that's one of the biggest conflicts we have in school. Youth saying, you're disrespecting me. And adults are like, no, I'm not, I'm the boss. So tangent there, sorry, but I'm very passionate about the really making sure that we're showing up in a respectful way that is also about how other people perceive respect. And I think that kind of connects to the, you know, response to triggers and okay to make mistakes. So we were at time on 5 minutes. Is there anything else common that we have not mentioned that needs to be up there? We're going to talk about outliers in a minute, and I heard some really important outliers. So anything common? Just go ahead and speak it out.
I'm not sure if this is covered by one of the sticky notes already, but there were quite a few different ways of saying ask questions, make no assumptions. So
I missed that one. Thank you. Okay. Any other ones that you notice we missed? And this is, you know, this is always open to revision. So we're just trying to get to a starting place. Okay. Are we okay to move on to outliers? If you can just do a quick thumbs up and I'll scan everybody real quick. Perfect. So we're gonna head over to outliers, and Garrett, if you can just flip us quickly back to whole, oh no, that's me because I'm doing this. Sorry, I forgot I'm driving. I'm gonna stop our share for a minute. And we're gonna have a few minutes to just openly discuss what were some outliers, and do you have questions? So things that were unique. I know there was a couple that were unique and I had not heard about. And I'm going to mention two to start us off, and ask that our youth speak to these, and then we'll talk about other outliers. And I'm going to put about 5 minutes on our clock for this. So I heard two. Serena, I heard "Don't yuck my yum," and I am 100% stealing that, and I will give you credit. And then from Alexandra, I heard, where is yours? Oh, that it's not up for debate around white supremacy, and I have some thoughts about that. So Serena, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so basically, like, don't yuck my yum. It's like not about food as much as it seems like it would be, but like kind of about like if I like something, don't say like, oh well, I don't like that. Duh. Like, don't bash me for liking something, you know.
I wish that I had that as a parent, because I would have used that every day as a parent. Okay, thank you. And then Alexandra.
Yeah, so with the example of like white supremacy, it's kind of like when you're having a conversation with someone that we're not here to defend or speak from a place that it doesn't exist. It's like a baseline that we all agree when we step into this online room or an actual room, hopefully eventually, that it exists and there is no debating whether or not it does. It's that we all agree that we're coming from a place that it's like a mutual understanding that we all have right off the bat. And so that was just an example, but that's one that a couple of the groups that I'm a part of use. And I think it's been really helpful. It creates it helps to not have like a hostile environment, or like, I mean, not that I don't think anyone in here would create that, but just it's kind of nice to have a baseline understanding.
Mm-hmm. Are there other areas that you use that for, like examples aside from white supremacy?
I mean, I think it's different with every group and sometimes depending on the topic. But I also like how you brought up that something that's not up for debate is someone's personal stories or someone's personal accounts, like their feelings are valid and those are not up for debate either. So I think it could be used in a variety of ways, and it just usually depends on the group.
Okay, thank you. And then Bruce, you had I think you were the only one who mentioned that community aspect. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Bring the community along is what I was thinking, is just in terms of as we as a group develop actions, those actions could include fostering community discussions or whatever actions we come up with to try to take. that we're thinking about the community. We're thinking about how successful those actions would be, and not only thinking about the discussion that we're having among ourselves on this committee. This isn't just about us. This is about us moving forward to do something that succeeds in the community in terms of bringing people together, in terms of everybody learning, and in terms of things improving in all the ways that we care about, so that we just keep our focus on that outcome. It's outside of us. That's what I'm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I heard a few other outliers. What did everyone else hear as outliers that maybe only one or two people mentioned? Amal.
Can I say something that I kind of was too nervous to say?
Absolutely.
One outlier, I think, for me, in terms of building trust, is something that's kind of affected our family, is having your values, like, I don't know how to word it, but like, if you have values for this group and you care about this group, if there's another group that is similar things happening, not to be like exclusive. Because, for example, we've made friends that like we thought were so anti-racist and this and that, and it becomes a liberal except for Muslims or a liberal except for Palestinians, and it's been very wounding to become friends with people and then have them have a view of my family that's on the outside of their anti-racist border. So it's just maybe to check that your bias is that this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, but not these values, and this humanizing doesn't apply to these people. So
thank you so much for sharing that. And I'd actually like us to just take a pause, a quiet pause on that note. Thank you. Thank you for trusting us to say that. I think that's important. Do you have a way, I have an idea, but I'd like to ask you first. Do you have a way that you would want that phrased as a norm?
I have an idea.
I'm gonna actually, if we can hold off just a second, was that Daria? And I'm gonna ask Amal and then I'll go back to you, Daria. Thank you.
It'd probably take me a few moments to try to put it into words.
Okay. Can I give you a few moments and then just raise a hand when you're ready?
Okay.
I just want to make sure to capture it in a way that's meaningful to you. Where we're headed is we're going to close out this part in a couple minutes. I'll put them on the Jamboard, and then we're going to try to reach some preliminary consensus. So we have, just time check, about a half hour. I'm hoping to end before 11:30 so you guys can get a really good break. And we'll see where we are at about 11:10, so in about 20-30 minutes. But feel free to take a break as you need to. Daria.
I just wanted to say that what you were saying reminded me of just being self-reflective.
Alexandra.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking of something a little bit similar in terms of just checking in with yourself and your biases and also your privilege, and kind of acknowledging, like, for example, like colorism, and like depending on where you fall on that spectrum and the privilege that comes with it. And that's not to say that you don't experience hardships or racism or oppression in any way, but that there is a certain level of privilege that comes with lighter skin, for example. So I really like the idea of checking in with yourself, whether that's bias or privilege.
Thank you. Patrice.
I think I'm saying what everyone's saying, just in a different way through my lens. But to me, it means attempting to step into someone else's shoes, and for the first time in your life, view it through their lens, not your lens. So we're not getting defensive when we're hearing stories. We're not thinking they're about us, but we're trying to look at it from the point of view of the person delivering it.
Thank you. Veronica.
The outlier that I had brought up is an invitation to be present in our bodies, because I find for myself, like just naming that anxiety around the process versus action helped me release it a little bit. And that there's a lot of transformation that happens in groups when there's challenging dialogue or impasses, when I take a moment and folks are invited to take a moment to breathe and let some of the stuck, like chest, throat stuff that happens in my body move, and then I can come from my heart as we do this work. I feel like that's just really vital stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Any last thoughts, or can I move to the Jamboard? All right, if you're good with me moving to the Jamboard, just give me a little thumbs up. Amal, do you want to add yours before I go?
I'm trying. I'm not doing it. I'll give it a few more.
No pressure. I just want to offer you room for your voice. So take all the time you need. All right, I'm going to move us to the Jamboard. Dun, 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 dun.
Actually, values aren't selective, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe.
We'll start with that one. Oops, wait, hold on. I got the wrong one. Wrong color. Okay. So I have don't yuck. Is it don't yuck up my yum? Is that right?
Don't yuck my yum.
Don't yuck. I was like so old of me to say like don't yuck up my yum. Don't yuck my yum. Okay.
I don't know if a comma is necessary. If I'm thinking,
Also, I just want to say, since I well,
is that
anyway.
better, Patrice?
yes.
He's like, I'm gonna make you an efficiency expert and a grammar expert.
Can I just say also, I want us to also be mindful of ageism, and that being old isn't a bad thing. We're just coming from different maybe generations and expectations. So
Thank you.
Can I add to the age thing?
Absolutely.
I think in this group, probably the bravest people are the youngest people. And I'm just so in awe of them. So they're just amazing. And I love to hear from you guys. I can't wait for you guys to grow up and fix it all.
Oh, no pressure.
Yeah, and just to name, I know that Sophia's on, and I just want to, I don't know if there's a reason why inviting her to share hasn't happened, or if there was a communication that happened around that, or her needing to not be asked, but just noticing I haven't heard her voice and wanting to make sure she feels welcomed to speak.
Thank you for that. I think that, so I don't see her on my screen. Is her screen black? I'm not seeing even a name. Maybe it's a black screen and I can't see the name.
I've been seeing her name. Sometimes there's a setting within Zoom for yourself that can make it to where you don't see people who aren't sharing videos. So possibly you've got that set.
Okay, so then, and this is why it's so important you guys check me also as your facilitator, because I cannot see her name and I did not even know that. So Veronica, thank you so much for pausing and checking, well, all of us and especially me on that. So Sophia, I'm so sorry. I can't see your name at all on my screen.
Oh, yeah, no, it's fine. I think it's my camera doesn't work on this computer and I didn't have the stop video on, but I think it's hopefully on.
Okay. Well, I want to give you a moment to add anything. Do you want to add to this, to either agreements or outliers?
I think just like remembering why we're here and why we came and applied for the resume, and that's to support people of color and that, and taking into account and maybe distinguishing between, you know, a committee that's there to help with inclusion and equity, and a discussion group. I think sometimes there's a paralysis by analysis issue in Marin, and I think that that's something, there's a privilege of leisurely activism that white people can sometimes fall into, as it doesn't really matter whether or not something is done tomorrow or in the next year, and sometimes urgency is kind of forgotten. So I think that's something that we should really be taking into account when allotting time to something.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that I captured all of the outliers. If I didn't, let me know. Patrice.
Yeah, Lisa, I just have a question. It goes to last week's meeting and the last statement made. And I know that we're going to be discussing this as we write the vision and mission and react to that. But I think that last point it's the foundation for why we're doing this. It's not an outlier, for sure. Remember why we are here, and we're the Res J. Privilege of leisurely activism. I mean, that's a goal that we're working to either agree with, disagree with, but certainly provide some action towards with everything we do, I think. So it feels weird to me to put that as an outlier when it's foundational.
Thank you. Thank you for pushing back on that. So let me clarify. Outliers doesn't mean it is not relevant, important, or primary. It was a way to sort what are we hearing everybody say? And then what were some things that were not mentioned very often that we really need to consider? Sometimes when you're doing norm development, you can sort of, when you start getting to the discussion and voting, quote unquote, you can lean towards all the common, and you forget to lift up the voices of, and oftentimes it's actually the voice of the norms of people of color on in a norm process. So I could have used any word for that, but the outlier to me is what was not said by everybody. And if you look at our outliers and you just kind of take a minute, they are some of the most important ones for inclusion, just as a noticing of theme here. Does that make more sense, Patrice?
Everything makes sense.
Okay, okay. So the hope is there, so before, actually, let me do this. Before I move on to have us talk about anything, is there anything anybody is holding on to that feels very urgent to have placed on this board? We are not, nothing here is excluded, nothing here is left out. The goal is that we end up with a list we all feel good about, and we may need to come back to it. We may need to leave this as it is with a lot of ideas and circle back another time. That's okay. So just know that, don't worry, you know, whatever side it's on isn't going to determine what gets selected. So anything that's just burning in someone's chest, they have to have on here. We good? And can I just get a thumbs up? I'm going to scroll quickly, just that everybody's okay with what's here right now. And if we work together and you find that another norm is needed, okay, great. Thank you. Sophia, are you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And Serena, are you there? Or did you take a break? Okay, I think she may have taken a break. Yes.
Lisa, I just want to confirm, I have not captured any action items yet. Just wanted to make sure that we're aligned on that.
Correct.
Okay.
So we have a choice right now. We can, so the end goal is that we have a list of norms that we all can live with for as long as we can live with them when we do our ResJ work. And in a sort of in-person norm process, you would take all of these and do some wordsmithing and distill them down into whatever the team feels good, 5, 7, 10 norms. If you get to too many norms, it actually gets really hard to kind of operate with the norms at every meeting. So the idea isn't to exclude any idea or any thought or any norm. The idea is that we actually have norms that we can work with that are not too cumbersome. And at the same time, these are your norms, not my norms. And so I'm very flexible to how you all want to move forward. So what we could do right now is everybody, in sort of a standard process, everybody get a vote. You'd pick 5 that you want as your norms. We can decide on the number together. And then it would happen not by consensus. It would happen, and this is a decision making. I just want to call out what I'm doing right now. So part of creating effective teams is being really transparent about how decisions are made. And so that's why I'm taking a little minute to talk to you. So consensus would mean that we talk long enough that everybody is in agreement about every single norm that is on the board. When it comes to norms, that isn't, I don't know the right word. We can't always be in agreement with everyone else's norms. Part of the point and purpose is that we're actually challenged, and we may need to hold a norm we wouldn't have chosen because I'm working with somebody else who needs that norm to be held. So in norm building, I typically don't do a consensus process because some of the power of norms is that you're holding a norm that may not be one you would choose because somebody else needs that norm. Does that make sense? Any questions about what I just said?
Yeah, I guess it's not as much of a question as a comment, but not up for debate is in both of the columns.
No.
And then also I think to kind of narrow down the list, I think a lot of the ones, especially in the common agreements, are kind of saying the same thing about, like, you know, there's everyone speaks in equal airtime. And I think, you know, if we narrow it down to kind of be one thing, then we have a lot less to vote on.
Yes.
Piggybacking on that conversation, those 2 things struck me as the same as well. And I feel like everyone speaks means we have a process where everyone gets called on. And almost, you know, the bridge is given to you to jump off with your answer. You don't have to feel shy. Whereas equal airtime can start to feel a little bit oppressive. So I like the idea of just everyone speaking. You know, we have a topic, it's very important. You call on people and everyone says their 1 minute and we move forward.
So I want to recognize we're starting to advocate for norms, and I'm going to hold us off, and I'm going to ask us to actually make a decision together. So we can consolidate norm. I'm going to choice A. We can consolidate norms and kind of live with this list after we consolidate, and it'll be a collective consolidation. And or choice B is that we take a vote and we each choose, you guys tell me the number, 5, 7 norms, and then we live with the norms that have the highest vote. And so I'm going to take us off a screen share for a minute to just make a group decision right now. And we can live with a draft list, right? We could try it out for a meeting and then come back and see how it goes. So just also being mindful of time. What are the team's thoughts about this? We could go in a couple different directions. Serena.
I think it would be best to kind of consolidate them and just get a short list that's kind of weak, because I think at this point, hopefully we all understand what, like, if we have a little simple thing on there that's been made up of a ton of points, we'll kind of understand what it means. And maybe like there could be like, we could come to a consensus of what it means, but we have a bunch of simple points. I think that would probably be the best for time as well.
Okay. I see a thumbs up. Other thoughts? I see a lot of thumbs up. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Are you suggesting just consolidating them, Serena? And simplifying where there's...
Yeah, just simplifying where there's overlap.
Perhaps.
Right.
Okay.
And then if we do that, we would live with a consolidated list for a while. And then we can all remember to check back to say, is this feeling good? Do we want to do any other work with the norms? Okay. So everybody like to do that? Can I get a visual? Okay, perfect. I'm going to go back to our screen share. All right, so we can just, I can't see everybody when I'm driving, so just feel free, be mindful of whether you've had a chance to speak, all voices in the room, and we can just popcorn out how to consolidate. You're going to tell me how. I don't want to mess with your norms.
As was just pointed out, there's that one duplicate not up for debate. That can be taken out of the outliers side because it's in the common agreement side.
Okay, and I'm going to do this. Anybody not okay with that? Okay, great. Woohoo. Oh, doggy likes it too. All right. Other consolidations.
I think the one we spoke of was consolidating everyone speaks with equal airtime and coming to some kind of pneumatic there that works for everyone, but they're kind of the same thing.
Any thoughts about that or recommendations for how to phrase it?
Well, was the everyone speaks thing a norm where you're like literally soliciting input as a norm from every single person?
That's how I had been thinking of it versus equal airtime. Yes, it would be like, you know, we speak on a topic and then everyone gets called on for their 1 minute comeback or context.
Bruce.
Can I suggest everyone speaks and everyone is heard as a way to combine it? Because it seems like it's, on the one hand, it's encouraging everyone to step out and speak, take their turn, don't be shy, but it's also encouraging all of us to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. So if we combine those two, that might be a way to say it.
Agreed.
Where's the everyone is heard one?
He's saying that should be, so that's what we should write. Everyone speaks, everyone is heard. Is that correct, Bruce? Did I hear you right?
And then that combines everyone speaks in equal airtime, the two that we have now.
Yeah, there you go.
There will be times when people want to pass, right? Like we're not going to force you to speak.
Right.
Absolutely.
No, so I am going to say a little bit about this in terms of if you haven't had experience with norms before. So the airtime is more typically understood. I mean, you guys get to define your terms, but I do have information to bear, like to bring to bear to this. So equal airtime is really that idea of step up, step back, really being mindful, like self-aware and mindful. I always have to watch my airtime because I talk too much. So that's me recognizing a level of privilege. I'm a verbal processor, like all these things. And reminding myself, you've talked a lot, Lisa, you need to stop talking now. So there's an ownership part of equal airtime. And then there's also a way that you work as a team to offer equal airtime to each other. And that I would work as a facilitator. So just similar to what Veronica said, that Sophia hasn't spoken, right? She's actually honoring that norm of both equal airtime. We haven't heard Sophia's voice, and everyone speaks. So it's not meant to be pressure. It's meant to create an equitable space. And part of equitable space is that if you aren't a person who speaks a lot, then that's okay too. And what you all should be holding me accountable for, and any facilitator, is that I'm, obviously I'm not going to get it perfect, but that I'm being really mindful of who has spoken, who hasn't, that I'm creating systems and structures for inclusion. So round robins, whip arounds, dyads, constructivist listening, those are all equity tools to give people multiple ways and venues to participate in a meeting, so that I'm kind of meeting everyone's needs. So these two can go, what everyone speaks, what was the everyone is heard? Any other thoughts about combining these?
I liked Bruce's suggestion. Everyone speaks and is heard. I think it accomplishes equal airtime. It accomplishes us hearing everyone's voice, and it also causes all of us to want to speak on these topics.
Should there be a comma in there?
Is everybody good with that adjustment, Daria?
I just kind of feel like equal airtime covers it.
So we have two ideas on the table. Leave it equal airtime, or move them together. Everyone speaks, everyone is heard.
And I have no problem with putting them together either. I just think it is this equal airtime encompasses everyone has the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I like equal airtime, but I do also really like the point Patrice brought up about like the equal, I guess, was really what she was getting across, is like that then it becomes a little bit like, I think the word you used was oppressive. Perhaps like sharing airtime is a better word, or maybe there's a different way to phrase it than equal, because ultimately we're not all going to speak exactly the same amount. There's really no way to do that unless we force people to say things. And I think with everyone speaks, I think like then you're kind of almost feeling obligated to speak, whereas like you might not be in the right place, or maybe you were triggered by something and you don't feel emotionally ready to speak. So perhaps sharing airtime, or there's another way, but I also totally agree with Bruce. So that's just my input.
I was thinking maybe equitable airtime.
I just see a clock running in the background when I hear things like that, because I think this is a really emotional one, right? It's everyone being heard, everyone being listened to. It's not, I get my 2 minutes on my soapbox. It just, please allow me to speak my perspective. So I don't think we're there yet from our exact words.
Would Patrice, would equal opportunity to speak cover more of what your concerns are?
Yes and no. I mean, I kind of feel like we were all selected for this committee to share our respective lives. And so I'm feeling like everyone speaks is almost it's a common agreement. It's a process where after every topic, everyone speaks.
Okay, this is a little long-winded for a norm, but I'm just trying something out. I'm listening to you guys trying to kind of synthesize here. So everyone has the opportunity to speak, comma, share airtime, and is heard. Or each person, I could say each person. Then my verbs would go together better. Each person has the opportunity to speak, share airtime, and is heard. What do people think about that? Okay, anybody not okay with that?
You know, it just occurs to me that this is along the lines of a foundational, what was it? This is a given, just like white privilege is. It's a given. In this group, we wouldn't want it any other way.
Does what I wrote, does this capture it for people?
It does. And to piggyback on what Daria is saying, I think it is a given, but it's one that too many forget too often and start to take for granted. So maybe it is something that's important enough to have here in front of us to reflect.
Yeah.
So can I take out everyone speaks equal airtime and replace it with this one? Okay, so I'm going to ask anybody not okay with that. Just shout out because I can't see you. Okay. And then to Daria's point and Patrice's point, the important thing about norms is that we're not assuming they're givens, because cross-culturally, cross-age, cross-gender, there really isn't a given that's common to each culture, each gender, each age, each race, each language. So this is part of making sure we're making that transparent for our teamwork, even if we think, oh yeah, everybody knows that.
Yeah, thanks for making that clear. I like that.
And it's also, so this is connected to the process observer, because there are going to be rough waters. We're going to disagree. Somebody is going to feel some type of way about something. And so what the norms do is really remind us of this day, right? We have some common beliefs and ways that we want to be together. And when everything's going well, you all know, I'm sure from your friendships and relationships, it's great. We never need to worry about norms when it's all going well. We're just, skipping along. But when things get rough, this is where these are the things that will hold us together. And we can't make assumptions about what's going to hold us together, because when we're upset, when we're angry, when we're triggered, we forget, right? We're not always our best normed selves. So just sort of a foreshadowing that these feel maybe a little easier right now, but when we're having a rough day, it's hard. It's really hard.
And I think this one's important just because I think we've acknowledged, even in our first few meetings, that some of us tend to talk more and some of us are a little bit more reticent and less sort of pulled forward. So I think it's a really important norm.
So one that I'm not seeing actually, and I really want to lift this up because it was mentioned, I don't think anyone else mentioned it, and I'm going to not phrase it perfectly, but it was something about really making space for our physical, emotional selves. And it hasn't been brought up or mentioned. It was an outlier in the sense that only Veronica mentioned it. But I do think that particularly around racial equity work, it lives very much in our physical body. And when we get triggered, we often have a physical, and for many people, a trauma response. And our trauma responses, I won't get into the reptilian brain around trauma response, but it is not something we can always stop or help. And so I just want to lift that up and bring that to the foreground before we move on. Does anybody feel like that is important? Like you want to add anything related to that?
Well, I certainly don't want to trigger anyone with anything I'm saying, but ironically, it makes me think of a safe word, right? If we're getting into territory where someone doesn't feel safe anymore, continuing or going forward, maybe we should have a word where we stop and we switch topics. If that's your ultimate goal, if your ultimate goal is how do we talk about this well, then I think the path there is different.
I think it's both. I think we're going to have to talk about some difficult things if you want to do this work in the community. And when we've had enough on any level, then, we have a right to step out also, right? It may not be everybody's need. And so, yeah.
What I'm like hearing right now, it kind of just seems to me like what we're doing is connecting the points of be self-reflective and check in with yourself, to respectful response to triggers, to like respect. It seems like we've just connected like a lot of those.
Yeah, and I just thank you, Lisa, for lifting that up. Resma Menachem book is especially like coming to mind about really honoring that trauma and racial trauma lives in our bodies, both as folks who are white or Black or identify in any way that there's ways that we all hold our body, or white supremacy has impacted itself, or impacted us, and we hold it in our bodies. And it just feels so vital to have some somatic norm be really articulated, like body somatic, something that really names how we live in our body in this work and name what comes up when it does.
Do you have a way that you would like to phrase that for a norm? Is there a couple words that would represent that and I can add it? I mean, I have an offering if you don't have one, but I don't want my words, you know, I don't want my words to dominate your norms.
Well,
I welcome yours.
While you're thinking about that, I just want to express my appreciation for that. I think using our bodies and being aware of our bodies is an opportunity. It's a technique. It's a way for all of us to get through things. So I support including that somehow.
And it's actually a specific technique doing racial justice work on teams to really honor how that trauma, that oppression lives inside our bodies, our communities, ourselves, our words, our physical way of being in the world. So it's actually, in many spaces, it's actually an equity strategy to be able to engage with our bodies. And I will say at the same time, that is not okay for everybody, right? So sometimes like we'll be in quick examples, like a meditation space, and we're asked to pause and reflect, and that actually brings up trauma. And then people are asked to kind of relive and sit with their trauma. So it's a both and I want to complicate the issue. The norm language, I don't want to like micromanage your language, but an offering would be, you know, be aware of somatic response or be aware of your physical response. That's keeping it very simple. So thoughts about that.
So this is related to self-care during the process. So if you notice that you're triggered, you have permission and are encouraged to take care of yourself, to get up, move, walk around, leave the room for a minute, come back, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself.
Yeah, maybe like welcome somatic reflection, welcome. There's a value of speaking it to each other and naming it and normalizing that we're able to identify our body's response to it. I guess if there's a word in the statement of the norm that really highlights that it's not as if we're just reflecting on our own body stuff, but that it's okay to say that we really welcome identifying it, verbalizing it with each other.
Well, I think it would be really helpful too, just for the group to know if you're having a reaction, rather than just, you know, preferably rather than just leaving. It would be helpful for the group to know.
Yeah, I really think that's important because if we are aware for ourselves, but other people can be also aware, it leads to understanding and learning. And
right.
So yeah, I really thank you, Veronica, for bringing that up, because I think it is important to I've been in many settings where like my heart is beating and I can hear it in my ears, but it doesn't feel safe to say it. So making space for that.
So
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Without making that the focus, but getting some care. When I say not making that the focus, it's like, you know, I can share that my heart is beating fast and I would welcome some care, but not take it, you know, not overtake whatever else is going on.
So I think it's important we I'm going to push back just a little bit and let everybody decide what they need. So we may want somebody to announce they're leaving for us to feel better or to know because we're caring, compassionate, loving people. But similar to what happened earlier, where Amal said, you know, I wasn't ready. And it was really, I'm going to guess, Amal, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So this is coming from a place of noticing, not trying to name your experience.
Mhm.
But I noticed that she needed to not say anything in that moment. And so it's a both and, right? It's like, yes, we welcome you having a somatic reflection, like I'm being triggered, whatever your language might be. But we also, from an equity standpoint, we need to honor the fact if somebody doesn't want to talk about it and wants to leave the screen without the pressure. There's some like white normativeness around like everybody has to feel good about something bad happening. Not that that's what anybody is implying. I'm just kind of recognizing some cultural elements to this. So just in the interest, I want to both be mindful of time and honor that, you know, you have enough time to process these norms. Are we okay with welcoming somatic reflection as it is for today? Okay. And so is there anything else we can combine before we take a break?
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of a diagonal of like bravery and risk-taking, be open and honor personal accounts. That kind of seems like it's all touching on like people sharing their own personal stories or opinions in there.
Do you have a recommendation for consolidation?
Be open seems like it's kind of like an umbrella that holds both of those other things. But I feel like be open could also maybe hold active listening, but like that's a little bit of a stretch. But I think probably like maybe even making a new norm but that's like clearly a long process, would kind of like maybe suit all those better.
Well, do you want to make a recommendation for a consolidated norm?
Honestly, I don't have one.
Okay.
Could we say be open through active listening, bravery, and honoring each other?
As long as we throw risk taking in there, I'm great with that. I was just thinking the same thing, that it's going to be a lot of commas, but it's an overarching principle of ours.
So be open through active listening. What? Sorry.
Bravery and risk taking.
Uh-huh.
And the one, it's hidden behind your sticky note. I can't see.
And honoring personal accounts.
Thank you, Serena.
Now, is bravery and risk taking sort of the same thing, or are they distinctly different?
It sounds to me like there's, as we combine those, there's parts of them that are about the speaker and parts of them that are about us as listeners.
And that's okay. So do we want to vote on, if this consolidation, so the one I'm speaking of is this one up here. I'm just trying to get these like separated here. Be open through active listening, bravery and risk taking, and honoring personal accounts. That one would replace one, this one, 2, and 3.
And active
listening.
And 4. This one. Okay, I'm going to scroll through. Thumbs up, because I'm going to delete them once you say thumbs up. So Bruce?
Mhm.
Thumbs up? Okay, I'm getting very literal about the thumbs up. Daria?
I'm passing for now.
Okay. And Laylee, I didn't see yours.
Can I just make a comment? I'm doing a thumbs up, but I don't really see the value in, like, what's the difference between having several short ones and a shorter list of longer ones. It's like, you know, it's the same thing to me. Like, 'cause it's going to be harder for me to process a very lengthy one versus, you know, a long list of shorter ones. So I don't want to like elongate this process, but I want to share with the group that I'm starting to get a little antsy and annoyed because I'm not sure why we can't have 12 of these when all we're doing is just consolidating and we're not really eliminating.
Kind of speaking to that, would active listening kind of fall under honoring personal accounts? Like, could that be the same thing? Because then it could be like maybe be open through active listening and active participation.
Yeah, I also think it hits ask questions, don't assume. So be an active listener. Listen to what the person is saying. When you hit a point that doesn't hit your own experience, ask questions. Make sure you're on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that with regard to these 5, we're at 11:30. We need a break and we have a lot to do in the afternoon. So my recommendation, just having done a lot of norm work, is that because we don't have consensus on some of this consolidation with this one right here, and there's new ideas, that we have 2 choices. Keep going on until we're done, in which case you'll not, you know, we won't get to that afternoon training, or accept the list as it is for now and know that we can come back to it another time. And I'm going to stop our share for just a second here. Because there is a part where you start splitting hairs with the norms, and sometimes it actually is useful to live with them for a while. And then you can kind of lift up the reality of living with them. So what would you all like to do? As a facilitator, I'm going to recommend that you, and this is not please don't misread this as a preference. This is me stating kind of what I see work in groups. I would recommend leaving them as they are. If you can live with the list, and then we can return to them. So I'm seeing thumbs up. Liesel, Sophia, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, does that work for you?
Yeah, that works.
It works?
Yep.
Okay, so let me go back. Woo! We did it. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna delete this one because we didn't have agreement. And I just wanna show you the list. The colors are not important now. They're all your norms. This one was a delete, correct? So these would be your norms, and I'll write them up and make them pretty for you. Can everybody live with this group of norms for now?
Yeah, I thought that welcome somatic reflection was supposed to replace other ones, but I'm fine with how it is.
Okay, I think it was its own. We can come back to it. Just for today is the question. Does this work for everybody? Okay. Any concerns? Anybody has anything they cannot live with? Guess what? You did it. Y'all have your own norms. Woo! All right. Clearly, I'm the only one very excited about that. All right. So what we're going to do now is open it up to public comment, if there is any.
There's no attendees, so there's no public comment.
Okay, great. No public comment. Wonderful.
I think we had one attendee. No, not anymore.
Well, they're like, so
Lisa?
Yes.
I have to just run for some of my daughter's birthday things, and I'm going to be back on at 1:30.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So you don't think I forgot about it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can we get confirmation on how this day is playing out? I looked at the website and it looked like 2 hours, so I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. So there was somewhere in the communication not clear. We're going to take a break now, and we'll take a 20-minute break, and we will reconvene. I'll count the 20 when I stop, when we all get off the screen. We will come back and we will do some, we're going to be talking and focusing on systemic oppression. And we're going to break down some of the components of systemic oppression and look at how we're going to operationalize some equity tools in your work as ResJ. When you come back, we'll be together probably I'm going to kind of have to play around with the timing because I didn't know when we were going to end. So roughly an hour, and then you'll break for a 30-minute lunch. And then we'll come back together for about 2 hours. It's a long stretch. You'll have another 15-minute break, and then we'll finish out our day. And we'll be ending, I'm going to end us right on time. So where we are is where we are at 4:30. And then when we come back together, I'll share a little more details about the agenda. But the general rhythm is that I'll share some information. I see your hand, Patrice, just a second. I will share some general information, some graphics, some different things. You're going to have time to engage with it. So it's not like you're listening to me talk the whole time. I've done a bunch of different engagement strategies, and we'll kind of feel our way through them based on people's ability to, stay on the screen. And then you'll get a break. We'll come back, get some more content, engage, break, etc. Patrice.
Yeah, I guess this goes to the values we just put up and the information we received. So I actually made plans for this afternoon based on a review of the website this morning to ensure that I wasn't stepping on this meeting's toes. So I'm confused about what the time frame is, and I'm also concerned because I'm a calendar wrangler that moving forward this never happens again, because some of us actually plan our entire days based on the information we get.
So Patrice,
the information, so none of our communication is about the website. All the information was shared both verbally, and also via email.
My email's been down. I've been having problems with my ISP, so I apologize. I'm not getting my email. And so I had to rely on the Town of Fairfax website.
But Patrice, we explained in the meeting that it was going to be 2 parts, and one part was going to be public facing and the afternoon part was going to be private because we're doing a training.
And I apologize. I think I misunderstood and thought we were spreading that across 2 days. So my bad. I will change plans.
Okay, that would be great, because it is going to be an equity training with some team development that we would love you to be part of.
Caillou.
On that note, I do have to leave it by 3 because my son came home unexpectedly to do a final, and I have to bring him back to school. So I need to drive for quite a bit this afternoon. So I will be leaving at 3 this afternoon, and I apologize.
Any other last comments? Okay, so you should have received a Zoom link from me for the afternoon. We're gonna start right on time at 12. It is a little weird timing because of lunch, so the mom in me wants to recommend you get a little snack. If the 12 to like 1:15 is going to be a long stretch for you. And you should, if you have an issue I sent everybody an email. Patrice, what is the best way for me to get you our Zoom link for the afternoon?
Text.
Okay. We're on a public meeting though, so I need your text number, but I don't want you to give it out in a public meeting.
Yeah, nor do I.
Is there anybody?
Email me and I'll figure out a way to route it to an email that's accessible.
Okay. If everybody could try out the link sometime on their break, I'm going to open the room so that we don't take too much time when we all come back together. And we'll be back at 12 o'clock.
Lisa, I'm looking at the email. It has 3 links for activities. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm referring only to the Zoom link. I sent it in an earlier email. I'll resend it.
It's the email with the racial autobiography.
Oh, I got that. Sure.
Okay, I want to let everybody go who wants to go so you get a full break, and I'll stay for a minute if you have questions. Okay, thank you so much. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Garrett. Okay, no questions? Lisa?
I'm just searching for the email that has the Zoom link, so I'll probably find it eventually here. I guess you're going to resend it, so that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, bye-bye. Bye, Garrett. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm your co-host, so I could lead. I don't know. I
have my own Zoom, so I'm just
right. Do your own link. Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Bye.